Tomorrow is Africa Day, and youth from across the continent and the diaspora gathered in South Africa to reclaim Africa. And this is the theme that inspired their deliberations at the third annual Breaking Down Borders Africa Youth Summit. And this is a platform where remarkable youth leaders met, connected, conversed about the continent. And the summit concluded a program of action to encourage youth to participate in social change and tackle challenges facing their home countries. And I'm joined now in the studio by one of the delegates who led discussions at the summit. And she is Liberty Hall Acting Director, Dr. Shani Roper. Pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, it must have been very inspired deliberations that you had. So you come up with something constructive, concrete that you can action.
So, so it was really a diverse series of conversations. I mean, I'm here from Jamaica to participate in the event. For us, we are interested, we work in a museum, so we were really interested in getting Africa-generated content for our multimedia touchscreen Africa exhibit. But for me, I found the event and the summit really just very engaging. I mean, African youth are just extremely invested in knowing how they can participate in their economy and how to capitalize on the opportunities there. And in my own conversations with a lot of youth, they actually had tangible achievables, right? For Afro Isawa, which is an organization geared towards doing capacity building among women to become parliamentarians. The whole idea of their breakout session was to discuss how do we enact African feminism and how do we get women in parliament and in politics and how do we engage everyone to build a capacity to participate in the political
I've
process.
had people say that if Africa was to become a leader in something, and I'm mentioning all the countries on the continent.
Yeah, right, of course.
It's the number of summits and conferences that Africans host. They say the number one continent. When it comes to talking and engaging and raising issues, we actually do it very well. But the downside of that is that we don't really take action. So I'm interested, following all these wonderful deliberations that were there concrete programs that came out that, to your mind, you think when you go back to Jamaica, you go back inspired, and you can tell the Africans in Jamaica that there is something going on.
Okay.
There's some energy brewing here.
Oh, there's a lot of energy here in South Africa. So I just want to say that first and foremost. For me, I've gotten my achievables, right? I've made the contacts that I need to bring to my organization in Jamaica to facilitate communication across the Atlantic. But I think one of the things that the summit did, it was that it brought people already working on opportunities who are looking for collaborations, who are looking for opportunities to transform the space in which they function. So I think we have to, when we say very often that we meet and greet a lot, like people argue in Jamaica that we write a lot of policies, but we don't put them in action. If we're saying that we're speaking a lot, sometimes it's what is it that we're looking for? Are we looking for an immediate impact, or are we looking for an activity that evolves over time to achieve a goal? I think a lot of them were planning for today, right? Yeah. And their achievables are in the next 3 to 5 years.
I have to say this because now, being from Jamaica, I'm reminded of what Bob Marley sang about and said, Africa Unite. And said this decades ago, right? And sang passionately about it.
Right.
Many young people then believed and agreed and swore by that statement that Africa must unite. But decades later, it's still not really happening.
Well,
I'm not saying it to be negative. I mean, obviously, we expect that the youth, with their energy, enthusiasm, and aspiration, that they'll make things happen. And you can also share with us, I mean, from the Jamaican youth perspective, what do they expect to see come out of the continent from their side, and what is their message to us?
So I think on the Jamaica side, one of the things that we're really looking towards is towards collaborations. I mean, in terms of issues around gender diversity and activism, the continent is very strong with that. And for us, one of the things that youth are engaged with is challenging the ways in which we engage the conservative platform, but not by using methods that the generation before us used. And what I've recognized in while being here is that a lot of African youth are pushing, they are engaged, they're well-read, and they are challenging the status quo. For me, I've found that the persons engaged in the training of women to enter politics, the approaches are actually similar. And what we actually really need is more conversation amongst ourselves so that our programs have more impact. And so for me, one of the things I'm taking away is to make sure I put people in conversation with each other so that they can then move forward with creating more tangible goals that go across the Atlantic.
Well, it's great to hear from you, being from Jamaica, the Caribbean. I'm thinking of African Americans now. Do they fit in anywhere in these conversations?
So I think Ghana has the the Year of Return, and 2019 is a very important year. There's the 400th anniversary of the first arrival of enslaved Africans to the continent, forcibly removed from the continent to arrive in North America. And in the U.S., they are actually engaged in this discussion. What we actually need, I think, as a diaspora is a way in which we are having a level platform communication with the continent. One of the things that has happened, I think, historically, even with Marcus Garvey, is that in the West, the diaspora almost has a kind of pseudo-colonial mandate, as in we come in and we're bringing medical aid and so on and so forth. But what we really need is a level engagement. So we need probably more student exchanges with the universities, more sharing of programs, more sharing of technologies. I think Africa, since I've been here, and even in our work, a lot of African countries are on the cutting edge of developing new technologies in a way that we are not necessarily engaged. And if we're having a level playing field conversation, then immediately we are forced to change our gaze in terms of how we go about doing what we do in the diaspora.
Well, thanks very much to learn and hear from you that this was indeed a fruitful summit and that there's a lot that's going to come out of it. And of course, the connections are being built across the globe for that matter, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. Yes.
After the break, we will be talking to one of the members of TKZ about his life journey.